Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of your Westland City Council to order. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance tonight, led by Councilwoman Rakowski.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilwoman Rakowski. Mr. Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilwoman Bauman.
Present.
Councilman Hart. Here. Councilman Hornbuckle. Present. Councilwoman Rakowski.
Present.
Councilman Wishart. Here. Pro Tem Sampe.
Here.
President McDermott.
Here.
My quorum is present.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. We will now begin with our special announcement and presentation this evening. We will have Miriam Cady from the Westland Western Wayne County Relay for Life come up.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Council President and Pro Tem and everybody up here. We really appreciate you always being so gracious about your time for me and all of us. So I'm here to talk about our Relay for Life of Westland Western Wayne County. It's our kickoff for our 2025 year. And that is next Tuesday, February 11th. And it is our 25th year. It's hard to believe, I know. It's crazy. And then it's kind of cool because it's year 2025 also. So it's Tuesday, February 11th, starts at 6:30 p.m. It is at City Hall here, which is great. Basically what we talk about is we talk about what the past 2024, what the successes were, what we've earned, what we did, some of the highlights of that. And then also, it's really cool because we have a researcher from University of Michigan coming to speak, which is really great, just to kind of help tell you where some of our dollars go and in our state. And it's a really great, every year we seem to always learn something new, and hoping that our dollars definitely are going to good use, and she's going to talk about that. And then we'll also, of course, honor our survivors and our caregivers that are there, and just, like I said, talk about our 2024 year and celebrate each other and moving forward what we're going to be doing. So that is basically, and once again, my name is Miriam. I'm part of the lead team, and so thankful to do that and be able to help out in a small way. But it does take a village, and I'm so thankful for our community for always standing behind us. And we've added other communities in now too. That's why we had expanded our name to Westland, Western Wayne County. So Livonia, Radford, Dearborn, Garden City. I mean, there's so many communities that we are inviting to be a part of us. So we are walking for each other, and I want to tell you how blessed I am to be here. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you, Mary. We appreciate that. We will now move on to questions or input on the agenda from the public. This section will allow members of the public at the beginning of the meeting to address the council regarding items that are on tonight's business agenda. Questions asked may be responded to during the agenda item following a motion and support from your Westland City Council. Is there anyone on my left? Mr. Warren? See you looking around.
Okay, I have two items here I want to talk about. I can't see it here. But anyway, item E under the consent calendar in regards to the cemetery fencing project. Do we own that property of the cemetery? We own it?
Yes.
Okay, then I guess it's okay to fence it in. But I never thought that the city owned cemetery property, so, okay. Under new business, item 4. This question of excess funds from the Kissimmee summer camp. I've never, as the chairperson of that, we never recommended that the Kissimmee get any funds for their summer camp. The only funds that I know that Kissimmee received was ARPA funds. And I don't know whether any strings were attached to that. So I don't know where the excess funds come from, because there was never any approval for them to have funds in the first place in regards to that. And it just doesn't look good to take, even if it was true, it doesn't look good to take funds away from a predominantly Afro-American church and then send it over to North Wayne. That can create issues, because somebody's going to have to explain it to Kissimmee why they're moving those funds over, because the Afro-American community will take offense to it, because it just doesn't look right. Now, you could send them anywhere else, but you don't take funds or propose funds from a church and then send it to another entity. It just begins to cause a perceived black and white issue. And I'd hate to have that happen to the Southeast Homeowners Association. So there needs to be some explanation of where these excess funds come from, because as long as I've been sitting on that commission, Kissimmee has tried to apply for funds, but they've always been rejected until just recently they've been able to apply for funds. But council decided otherwise and gave them funds for the trip, and those were ARPA funds. And those are the only funds that I know that they've directly gotten from the city. So I just don't know where that comes from. Also, when you look at it, there's no date of which these particular funds are coming from. So it leads you to assume there needs to be some expansion, whether it's 20, 25 funds or whatever. But to reprogram, and also at
Thank you, Mr. Warren, your time is up.
Dog it.
Is there anyone on my right wishing to speak on the agenda? Anyone on my left? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. I'm actually looking over the consent calendar, and one of the items I was looking at was Section F for the approval of professional service agreement with Utility Finance Solutions, or UFS it's referred to. It looks like it's for $34,500. And I'm wondering, what does that total include? And are we actually looking at all items that we discussed before? I know other people in the community have mentioned other solutions to our water and sewers. I think someone even mentioned a water tower. But what is the involvement of this study? And who other was considered for this? Was it just this one person or this one UFS? Just questioning it. I tried to review it inside the packet. I didn't see a lot of details of who other was besides UFS.
Yep, we can get you an answer on that.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience wishing to speak on the agenda? Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak? Okay, seeing and hearing none, we will close public comment on the agenda and move on to the consent calendar. Is there a motion? There is a motion by Councilman Wishart, supported by Councilman Hart. Are there any changes to the consent calendar? Yes. Yes.
Consent calendar item C, I would like to move into new business so we can discuss the importance of it.
Yeah, and I'll move item F.
Are you supporting?
Oh, yes, support, sorry.
All right,
You
there
went
is
like, go, and I'm, yes,
a
support.
motion to move item C to new business, and it's supported by Pro Tem Sampe. Mr. Clerk, roll call, please.
Motion to move item C from the consent calendar to new business 1A. Councilwoman Baumann.
Yes.
Councilman Hart. Yes. Councilman Hornbuckle.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rakowski.
Yes.
Councilman Wishart.
Yes.
Pro Tem Sampe.
Yes.
President McDermott.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Now back to the consent calendar as amended. Are there any additional changes to the consent calendar? Pro Tem Sampe.
I would like to move item F to get further clarification from our finance department.
Is there support? There's a motion to move item F to new business by Pro Tem Sampe, supported by Councilman Wishart. Mr. Clerk, roll call, please.
That would be to new business, item 1B. Councilman Baumann.
Yes.
Councilman Hart. Yes. Councilman Hornbuckle. Yes. Councilwoman Rakowski.
Yes.
Councilman Wishart.
Yes.
Pro Tem Sampe.
Yes.
President McDermott.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, back to the consent calendar as amended. Are there any additional changes to the consent calendar? Any additional changes to the consent calendar? Any? Yes, Councilman.
I'd like to move consent calendar G to new business as well.
There's a motion to move consent calendar item G to new business by Councilman Hornbuckle. Is there support?
Support.
Supported by Pro Tem Sampe. Mr. Clerk, roll call, please.
To move item G to new business 1C, Councilwoman Baumann.
Yes.
Councilman Hart. Yes. Councilman Hornbuckle. Yes. Councilwoman Rakowski.
Yes.
Councilman Wishart.
Yes.
Pro Tem Sampe.
Yes.
President McDermott.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, back to the consent calendar as amended. Are there any additional changes to the consent calendar? Any additional changes to the consent calendar? Any dissent? Any dissent? Hearing seen none, motion passes.
Council has approved the following consent calendar items: minutes of the study session held January 28, 2025, approval of agreement with the City of Westland and the Wayne Westland Community Schools regarding the John Glenn High School Police Officer Liaison. The agreement shall be effective for a one-year period commencing immediately. Approval of EMS transport and fire service billing contract with EMS Management and Consultants Incorporated, formerly known as Acumen Billing. Agreement is for 7 years, commencing immediately, expiring on January 31, 2032. Approval of the William Ganong Cemetery fencing project. Administration recommended American Fence and Supply Company, total amount not to exceed $42,935. Approval of Know Before email and cybersecurity training, subscription renewal through CDWG. Subscription will resume immediately, be effective for a 1-year period in an amount of $8,602. Adoption of budget amendments through December 31, 2024 for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2025. This item was introduced January 21, 2025. Last item approved on the consent calendar, adoption of resolution for long-term maintenance of storm water system. Moving to payment of voucher.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Councilwoman Rakowski, supported by Councilman Wishart. Is there any discussion from the maker?
Not for me, thank you.
Any discussion from the supporter? Is there any additional discussion from the council? Yes, Pro Tem.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm like battling sinuses and it's draining, so if I keep on clearing my throat, apologize. So I have a question I had asked to Finance. So through the chair to Director Smith, who I did talk to, if you want to give a little bit more clarification in regards to some items. So on our voucher, it says general government, and then you'll notice in many different areas, we have 98.6 physician PC. We are paying for healthcare, which is done separate in a line item, but we're also paying for this 98.6 physician. I'd asked Finance to provide some information on this, and they had stated that it is like a telehealth. So through the chair to Director Smith, are you able to just expand upon why we're paying health insurance and then we're also paying visits separately for like an emergency telehealth visits?
Sure, through the chair. So the 98.6 is the annual, what you see on the voucher tonight is the annual contract, and it's spread over all the different departments of the employees, including the retirees that use it. What it's there for is to actually save money on health care, because if we can get people to call in for telemedicine instead of going to the ER or instead of going to the doctor, it's less expensive for the city. So it's an annual amount, annual premium. Council had approved a 3-year contract with them a while ago. This is actually the first payment of that. So you'll see next January or so, you'll see another payment. So.
Thank you, Director Smith. Do you know approximately how much the savings is to utilize that service, I guess overall?
Through the chair, we do have a utilization report, but it's very hard to determine the savings because you'd have to look at each individual person to see what their issue was and what other means of them trying to get help for that, whether they went to the ER or not. It'd be very difficult, but we can tell you how many people are using it. And what you see lately is there's more people using it because the word is kind of spreading, and it's actually a very easy way to get some help without having to go outside. If you're sick, to go outside, go to the doctor's office, and try to make an appointment with the doctor. That's tough these days. So this is an easier way. It's not meant to do anything serious, but the common stuff, you can get some help for that.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate the explaining of what that is, just because I had a few people ask me, what is, if we're paying for healthcare, why are we paying for an additional doctor visits? And I think that explains. One thing that I did mention to doctors, I'm giving you a doctor title now, Director Smith, is that some of the funds for me were a little bit harder to follow. I don't know if the council had followed things correctly, maybe it was me. But in our capital projects and a few other pieces in here, we have the fund, but then in capital project, you have to look for the fund, and then the department code was at the end. I don't know if anyone realized that or not. Maybe it was just me not following, but there's just so many department codes. So I'd asked Director Smith if he could give us like a cheat sheet or explain a little bit further. But I was just going through the vouchers, and I'm just really concerned about fiscal responsibility when it comes to some of the items, just because, you know, I know that we're on grants in some ways, and in terms of getting information, sometimes it's been hard from the administration here and there. So just appreciate the explanation. We did talk about snow maintenance too. That was a question that we had talked about in the budget amendments, and that DPS would take care of some of our snow removal. We also have snow removal here by Highland Landscape, but from what I've been told is that Highland will not cover our main roads. Highland is doing the parking lots and then some salting. So Director Smith did tell me, as we had mentioned in our budget sessions, that if we go over time, we won't see that until later in the year. So it looks like they're trying to go through and utilize our DPS as much as possible. So just wanted on the record just to make that known, and I did have some questions, but other than that, I appreciate your time, Director Smith, too. I know I kept you over and had some further questions, but my questions are answered, so thank you.
All set? Great. Is there any additional discussion on the vouchers? Any additional discussion? Any dissent? Any dissent? Hearing and seeing none, motion carries.
As we move to new business, I'd ask that you note, new business item number 3 will be administratively removed and considered during a future council meeting. New business, item 1, request for City Council to enter into a closed study session on February 18, 2025 at 6 p.m. to consult with council in connection with Zayden versus Westland and to consider material exempt from discussion or disclosure by state law pursuant to MCL 15268(1)(e) and H.
There's a motion by Councilwoman Rakowski, supported by Councilman Hornbuckle. Mr. Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilwoman Baumann. Yes. Councilman Hart. Yes. Councilman Hornbuckle. Yes. Councilwoman Rakowski. Yes. Councilman Wishart. Yes. Pro Tem Stampy. Yes. President McDermott.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. We'll move to new business, item 1A, formerly known as consent calendar C. Approval of professional services agreement with Higura Health Incorporated to perform social worker services for the Westland Police Department. The agreement would commence immediately and end on September 30, 2025.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Support.
There's a motion by Councilwoman Rakowski, supported by Pro Tem Stampy. Is there any discussion from the maker?
Thank you, Council President. We've had this relationship with Higura now for a few years, and I think that there's been some very good and telling things that have come from this partnership. And being able to utilize the social workers in some of our crisis times for our residents and other people in the community has shown to be beneficial. So I'm going to be in support of that. Thank you.
Is there any discussion from the supporter?
Yeah, thank you, Councilwoman Rakowski, for bringing that up. I know that we've had this relationship for quite some time. Jennifer Guzmana has been very active, not only just in this role, but in the community. So I've been working with her closely to help our homeless shelter, and she's not one just to be involved with certain things. She wants to help out the community at large. So we're really lucky to have her, but we're really lucky to have this partnership. So I'll be in support of that this evening.
Okay, Councilman Wishart.
I'm also very much in support of this. I just want to hear from the PD of what services they're providing and what positive impact they've made to the community. So to the chair, to the deputy chief, can you explain that?
Yes, sir. Through the chair, as we've already stated, Jennifer Grismala she's been here a long time. She's a very important member of a department. She currently offers not only behavioral health clinician master's level services, where she talks to people after issues happen. She also responds and does co-response with the police out on the road when issues happen. She's also a substance use disorder specialist, and she's able to help people with that. So if we have somebody come into our lockup, it's also part of our booking procedure now, where we ask somebody if they have some kind of issue they'd like help with, and then we'll refer them to her right there and then for that. Just so you're aware, we also do have a representative from Hygera here, Roxanne Green, who could explain anything more if you had any more questions.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. No more questions at this time. I just want everyone to know the wonderful work that they're doing. I think it's a real value to this community, and it's understated a lot of times. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Is there any additional discussion from the council? Any additional discussion from the council? I just want to say I think this is a tremendous program and a tremendous partnership that we've had now going on almost, I think, 4 years with Hygera. I really appreciate the administration and the chief and deputy chief's role in, getting this spearheaded. I know our current chief was a deputy chief at the time and was instrumental in getting this program in partnership with Hygera and with our social worker, Jennifer Grismala, off the ground. There are some situations where I think it shouldn't only be a police officer responding, where it is a mental health crisis and emergency, or as, the deputy chief mentioned, someone who suffers from a substance use problem who is booked into the police station, who needs that help right then and there. And Ms. Grismala is able to provide that on the spot, working directly within the police station. This is not like she's at the Hygera Health Building and she has to come over. She's often on site there at the PD working, and she can, has an office there, absolutely, and can hop in a car and go do a ride along or do a mental health crisis response in the city if officers do request that, if they're dealing with an emergency and someone who's experiencing a brain health emergency. So I'm a huge supporter of this program, as I know everybody on this council has been for a number of years now, and I'm excited to see this partnership continue. So thank you to Hygera, thank you to the Westland Police Department and the leadership over there, and to all of our officers who have been, very supportive of this program. I certainly appreciate that. Any additional discussion from the council? Any dissent? Any dissent? Hearing and seeing none, motion passes.
New business, item 1B, formerly known as F on the consent calendar, approval of professional services agreement with Utility Finance Solutions for services associated with performing a utility study, total amount not to exceed $34,500.
Is there support? Support. There's a motion from Pro Tem Sampe, supported by Councilman Hornbuckle. Is there any comments from the maker?
Thank you, Council President. So I'm just going to shoot this over to Finance, to Director Smith, to get further clarification on this issue. So through the chair to Director Smith, if you want to explain this a little bit in detail, just so we can have questions answered, please.
Sure, through the chair. So this professional service, we started with this company back in 2018. We bid out the service back then. Council extended it in 2021, and we're here tonight to ask for an additional extension. This company is known nationwide, their Michigan company is known nationwide for doing utility rate studies. And I'm sure there's a few people on council that know the city used to do a zoning rate study years ago, but because of the complexity and the way it came, we went out to bid for it. So they've been a great company to work with. What they do is they do a 3-year rate projection, which we take to council, and he actually does presentation for council as well. He's done that in the past. So if there's any questions that council may have, he answers them at that time. He also does a 5-year, kind of like we do with the budget, we do a 5-year budget analysis. He does that. He works with us on the water side of that. And also what they do is for capital improvements, they plan, there's a 5-year capital improvement plan that's built into the rates, so that we don't come up to a point where, there's no money to pay for any capital improvements. So there's money there in case that happens. And there's also a reserve fund in case something happens, like a sewer main collapses or something like that, something bigger, where we would need cash reserve to pay for that, to get that fixed. That's happened a few years ago, I think, off the Common Road, right over there. So that did happen, unfortunately, but we prepare for that through this rate study. So it's a great company to work for, and this is a 3-year. Price is just a little higher than it was the previous time, so I hope that helps answer your question.
Sure, I'd just like to add to Dr. Smith's comments. This is a particularly unique analysis that's done. It's not done by your typical CPA firm. Rate studies have been challenged in courts many, many times, so it's important to have somebody who's an expert in performing utility rate studies, which UFS is, Mark Beauchamp. We've worked with him before in litigation that we've been involved in for the city. So it's important to have an expert who can withstand that kind of rigorous examination if it becomes necessary, and for judges to recognize, yeah, this is a credible testifying expert. So this is a unique type of study that has to be performed, and this is a group that just does that work. It's not a typical CPA or accounting firm. So I just wanted to pass it along that Steve and I both worked with this gentleman.
Thank you, Attorney Fasson. Pro Tem.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Director Smith, for explaining it, I guess, in detail. You mentioned that there's a slight increase in this amount. Did I hear that correctly, or maybe not, from what we paid before?
Yeah, through the chair, 3%.
A 3%?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
All set? Is there any discussion from the supporter? Is there any additional discussion from the council? Any additional discussion? Yes. Oh, did you have something, Councilwoman? No, okay. Any dissent? Any dissent? Okay, hearing and seeing none, motion passes.
New business, item 1C, formerly item G on the consent calendar, approval of purchase of swing sets for the Jefferson Barnes Community Vitality Center. Purchase would be from Sinclair Recreation, doing business as Game Time, in an amount not to exceed $21,727.07.
There's a motion by Councilwoman Rakowski, supported by Councilman Hornbuckle. Is there any discussion from the maker?
I'll defer my comments at this time, thank you.
Okay, any discussion from the supporter? Councilman.
Yep, thank you. So the reason I moved this one off is because in the packet, it looks a little weird, and I just wanted to have a discussion to clear it up. But it also, the same line for the swings, for the park improvement for $23,000, also show up in our packet under agenda item 4. So I just wanted to make sure that we don't have two placeholders for $23,000, and we're not spending $23,000 for something that's not really there.
Dr. Campbell, did you want to take that?
Yes, thank you through the Council President.
Thank you.
The City Council communication that was sent on included the line item for the excess funds of the CARES Act money, which is CDBG-CB. And so it is reflected in the council communication that went, just to make it into the chart that's on the agenda. So it is only spending like $3,000 once in its excess funds. It's not quite the same as reprogramming their excess funds from other projects under the CARES Act.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that's clear, because it does not show up on the top agenda items, but it does show in the packet that there's a $23,000. I just want to make sure that this line item for G in the consent calendar matches what's in the agenda item 4. So just wanted to make sure that was clear. Thank you.
Okay, all set, Councilman?
Yep.
All right, is there any additional discussion from the council? Any additional discussion from the council? Any dissent? Any dissent? Hearing and seeing none, motion passes.
New business, item 2, approval of application for a new Class C liquor license, new SDM license with Sunday sales, new entertainment permit, and corresponding contract between the City of Westland and 30712 Michigan Avenue LLC regarding conditions of liquor license from John Hambrick, Eloise Asylum, located at 30712 Michigan Avenue in Westland.
Is there a motion? Oh,
So moved.
is there support? There's a motion by Pro Tem Sampe. There is support by Councilman Hornbuckle. Are there any comments from the maker?
No.
Any comments from the supporter? Any comments from the council? Did the administration have anything they wanted to add on this with regards to? Yes, Councilwoman.
I didn't jump on the approval part, but question, on the request, it looks like it says a new Class C liquor license. And then on the letter from December 11th, it says, from the attorney, it says, helping obtain liquor licenses for Westland's Eloise Asylum. Can I get some clarification through the chair on what is actually being requested? I think I saw that we have 6, the city has 6 licenses before this one, I think. I just want some clarification on what is all of this, please.
Attorney Fasson.
Through the chair. There are a number of, I think the A new versus licenses relates to the, both the Class C liquor license, but the SDM license with Sunday sales and entertainment permit. So I think it's the linkage that they were trying to get across in the write-up for you.
Okay, so how many licenses does Westland still have, I guess, after this?
Thank you, Council President, to this honorable body. There are 6 licenses that are on-premise licenses that the City of Westland still holds. After this, if this council does choose to approve this license for on-premise sales, we will have 5 as a city.
Any additional discussion, Councilwoman?
Is any requester here to give a little information about what's actually being?
Yes, actually, we have the attorney from Representative John Hammer.
I'm curious about what's actually happening. What is Eloise actually? I've tried to read all of it and try to figure it out. But like, is it a nightclub? Is it just a bar? There's no food. So I guess I just wanted a little more clarification about what's coming to our city.
I didn't know the protocol, so that's why I didn't approach. My name is Seth Tompkins. The actual owner of the applicant, Mr. Hambrick, is very ill right now. He's got flu, so that's why he's not here. I'm at a little bit of a disadvantage because I'm here to assist him with the liquor license process and through the city and then through the state, and then the implementation of the training and stuff that he needs to do to make sure that he doesn't get into trouble after he has a liquor license. I did review the package that was provided to the City Council, and it does have a lot of information in there about what he's planning on doing. I think right now, the idea is just to get the small bar open at the front and then see where it goes from there. I don't think that he's planning on doing any food preparation on site, but I know that the place is already, it hosts a lot of different events, not just for, around Halloween, but corporate events are there also. And so there probably would be catering and stuff like that, but I don't think that they're going to be doing any food prep there. So this is primarily, a Class C license is an on-premise license, and as Alex told you, you will have 5 left. The other license is an SDM license, and you have, I think, a couple dozen of those. That's, if he wanted to do a beer tasting, and it would be sponsored by, a local brewery, and then they'd be able to buy 6-packs to go, So that's a beer wine license to go. And sometimes there are quota licenses that would come off as new. If not, then we can just get one as a tag along to go with the Class C. But yeah, I'm excited to find out what he does with this also. I know he plans on doing some outdoor seating in a small bar. I know that he's going to train his entire staff to make sure that they know what their responsibilities are with respect to selling alcohol to the public. I know that he has an excellent security staff already, and they know what the laws are. And so I'm sorry I don't have all of the answers because I'm not the operator, but just from knowing this attraction, I think that it will be run properly. And I just wanted to thank the city for considering this. I know that Mr. Hambrick's put a tremendous amount of money into this project already. And so I think that when cities have these licenses available, I like when cities support the people that are supporting the community through the development. And so I just ask that you support this request.
Thank you. Councilman Hart.
Yeah, thank you, Council President. Not so much for you. So I was reading through this and I was going into my Wayback Machine. And I seem to recall, and I'm assuming I'm making a mistake, so I'm going to use this as a teaching opportunity for all of us, okay? I remember way back with my initial conversations with Mayor Wild when I first started, and I remember I was told the city had 2 liquor licenses left. Okay, and one we gave to Hush Entertainment. I remember that. Okay, and I think some people here remember that as well. Some people, I have this weird situation where I'm the elder council person, so I remember some things. What is it that I'm remembering, Director Garzon? Can you kind of go ahead and clarify that for all of us?
Sure, thank you. And through the council president, this honorable body, one of the things that happens with communities, in particular after the census, is there's a reallocation of licenses. And in this case, the on-premise licenses, the city of Westland gained some after that. So we gained a few more than those 2 we had left over. So it was in addition to those 2. So we are now at 6. With this one being that 6, so we've had 5 if this is approved. So that there was a reallocation process that occurred where Westland obtained a few more.
So we won the liquor license lottery.
Something like that.
Okay, all right. Because I was talking with a couple of my colleagues earlier, I said, I think this is the last one, but I was unaware that we won some additional licenses.
Yeah, these are based on quota, based on population. So every 10 years, if your population increases, then I think it's for every 3,000 people more, you get another license.
So if we get more people, we need more booze. Okay. Yeah, I think so. All right, well, no, thank you for the education. That was helpful. Thank you. That's all, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Hart. I was under the impression, just as Councilman Hart was, because I was on the council when we issued that, as was Councilman Rakowski, 2 Hush, and at the time we were told we only have the 1, but that clears it up, so thank you, Director Garza. Pro Tem Sampe.
Yeah, thank you for representing Mr. Hambrick as he's ill. I have spoken with him before, and I understand that he has a small bar located in Eloise, and that he is doing some events, like you had stated, corporate events. He does escape rooms. So it looks like he's trying just to have it for entertainment purposes, nothing, no wild parties, but I know he has good security. So he does have a small bar as I've been in there.
Right, so it's probably used right now for what's called catering permits for existing licensees. They can come in for private events and they can set up a bar. It's not a cash bar or anything like that. But I think he wants to set up a cash bar so that he can host the events and he doesn't have to rely upon catering permits in order to do the events that he wants to have done.
Sure. Yeah, and that makes sense to me because I understand that he's trying to bring some entertainment value to that area in particular, and he has some big plans for the property, so no issues from me whatsoever. It's good to see that property is bringing additional foot traffic, so definitely supporting this.
Okay. Is there any additional discussion from the council? Did you have anything else to add? Councilman?
No real discussion, just want to say that Eloise has been doing a lot of great things in our community, and I definitely support the energy he's bringing back to the community, so I definitely be supporting this, and thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Any additional discussion from the council? So again, we'd just like to thank John Mr. Hambrick for his continued investment here in the city of Westland. I think that from an economic perspective, it brings people all from not only the Metro Detroit area, but all across the country to Eloise there. So thank you to Mr. Hambrick for his continued investment in the city. And
I will pass that along to him. Thank you.
Okay. Any dissent? Any dissent? Hearing and seeing none, motion carries. Congratulations. You as well, thank you.
Item 3, as mentioned, has been removed from the agenda. New business. Item 4, approval of request to reprogram community development block grant and home program funds.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there support? Support. There's a motion by Councilwoman Rakowski, supported by Councilman Hornbuckle. Is there any discussion from the maker?
Thank you, Council President. I'd just like at this time to go through the chair to Director Campbell to see if there's anything that she wanted to add that would be pertinent to the discussion and decision-making.
Great, thank you. Director Campbell.
Thank you through the council president. Just to answer some of the questions that were asked during the questions on the agenda. First of all, this reprogramming is for the fiscal year 2024-2025, when we're currently in, and that is noted in the council communication that is part of the city council packet. In regard to the funds that were allocated to Gethsemane Summer Camp, it is accurate that the mayor's recommendation was to allocate $10,000 for the requests last May. And at the same city council meeting, when the city council approved the CDBG budget, including the $10,000 for this program, the city council also awarded $25,000 in American Rescue Plan funds for the camp program. And the request for funds was for $25,000. At the Community Development Advisory Committee public hearing in August, the camp director did share that 18 children were able to benefit from the $25,000 American Rescue Plan funds. They did go to Washington, D.C. and also enjoyed a very successful 4-week summer camp. And so therefore, those funds do need to be reallocated to another project because they requested $25,000 and that was covered by the American Rescue Plan funds. The funds going from that camp to Norwayne Parks, I will share that Norwayne is a very diverse community. The parks are open to everybody from the city and surrounding communities. I've met with Kyle Mulligan and Christine Horn regarding Norwayne Parks funds for this year, and they're looking to support, in addition to the new play structure that will come to Public Park on Wildwood, do some other park improvements, and so that is specifically what the $10,000 would be allocated to as that project. And then if there are any other questions regarding the other recommended reprogramming, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Director Campbell. That satisfies me. I just wanted to have it expressed for those in the audience and those who will be watching at a later date at home. So I appreciate it. Thank you. You always do a wonderful job with our housing and development.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Hornbuckle.
So I just have a question about the funds that were questioned earlier from one of our residents about the funds moving from the church. I wasn't on the council, so we'll say I was stuck in limbo at that time. So the council approved ARPA money for $25,000, but this money was already allocated to the church. Is that correct? Or this was after? And that money that was allocated to the church at that time, this 10 grand, the church didn't get that money. They just got the ARPA money.
Thank you through the council president. Both of the approvals occurred at the same meeting in early May of last year, and the request from the church was for $25,000. They received $25,000 in a different source of federal funds approved by City Council. They did not request, there was not, the application process was completed, the public hearings were completed, and so the additional $10,000 exceeded their request, which was approved using the American Rescue Plan funds.
So my only concern is, was the church anticipating this other $10,000, or did they know that, hey, you're getting $25,000, this additional 10 that you were gonna get, that's gonna go away, you're just gonna get that?
I have received no communication from the church summer camp folks, other than the camp director coming to the public hearing in August and sharing their successful use of the $25,000. At that time, she did not request to be able to use the additional $10,000. She expressed her appreciation for the full amount that they had requested being approved by City Council to do their summer camp in 2024.
That's all the questions I have right now. Don't go too far, I might have more later, but I'll let the rest of the council go ahead.
All right, Councilman Hart.
Thank you, Council President. I think I just want to go ahead and, I'm going to say purple dinosaur this a little bit. So, the way I recall it, and Joanne, if I'm wrong, please throw an eraser or something like that at me. I'm sure everybody will know. So, the church asked for $25,000. When the church asked for $25,000 for the camp program, they requested that from the CDBG program. CDBG came back and said, we've got 10. Okay. Then the church came here to the council meeting, I remember it vividly, and they said, they threw their hands up in the air. We were at an opportunity at that time because we had the ARPA, and we were in this moment of, we're trying to put some back into the community. It was a worthwhile move for the council, so I remember I moved it along with all of my colleagues and unanimously says, look, we've got a cooler, quicker way to fix this problem. Council has the keys to the ARPA purse, so we opened up the ARPA machine and we just threw 25 right at them, out of the ARPA funding. So they asked for 10 from CDBG for the camp, 25, they got 10. We fixed the problem with 25. This other 10 was still sitting in limbo. That check was written and never really cashed out, never really given, so it's being reprogrammed. So they got what they asked for, the 25 instead of the 10. We used ARPA to do it. These CDBG funds, though, do have to be reprogrammed because that's what the ask was for. So they're reprogramming it. And of course, as you know, CDBG funds have a lot more control on them and what we can spend them on, where we can spend them on than what we could do with the ARPA. So that was the ask. So I think now that it's reasonable, I don't think that the church isn't losing 10 grand. Okay, they got their 25. And then we're going to reprogram the 10 grand under a legitimate CDBG expense within the CDBG district. Joanne, did I get that right? Okay, thank you so much. I paid attention. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Hart. Councilwoman Rakowski.
All right, thank you, Council President. And again, I mean, this is for the summer camp. Our fiscal year is going to end before the summer camp, so they'll be reprogrammed, most likely additional funds in the new budget session for 25-26, right? And I recall that we have a responsibility when we have federal funds, especially with our HUD funds, CDBG home funds, that we can't duplicate and replicate funding from two sources for one thing, right? Like, so I remember you telling me that very succinctly, like we can't do that. So we used other federal funds to award them. And so in this case, we would almost be out of compliance with our federal spending if we did go ahead and move that 10 as well.
And that is a very strict tenet of the CDBG and home programs, that entities and individuals cannot receive duplicate funding for the same purpose, duplicate federal funding for the same purpose.
So thank you. I just wanted to, that's one of the nuggets that I had in my Wayback Machine, if you will. So they did receive federal funds by way of ARPA to, with the 25,000. I don't believe they had possibly utilized all of those funds. I think they were able to successfully do their visit to Washington, D.C. and their summer camp as well. So this makes sense to be in compliance as well. So thank you, Director.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Pro Tem Sampe.
Thank you. Through the chair to Joanne, so in terms of the $10,000, just to confirm, that is being moved to the Norwayne district, so there's not really an opportunity for us to use the funds in that area in particular? Like there's been no other opportunity?
Through the council president, for the three film and block grant funds, there are two categories of how we use the funding. One is called public services, and that amount is capped at $256,000 for the entire grant. And then the other funds are what we call bricks and mortar. We don't have to spend $256,000 for public services. The public services application process is an annual process, a once-a-year process. We're going through it right now. The nonprofits that have received funding under public services in the past have all received a letter informing them that this is the time to apply for the fiscal year 2025-2026 funds. So there is not a group that applied for funds last year that did not receive funds under this category, and the church funds are public service funds. The request for the Friendship Center funds was reduced by $5,000 in order to accommodate the request for the disseminating church, so the city council may see a better fit for reprogramming the funds would be to allocate them to the Friendship Center for programming there. And I believe, and I apologize, I don't have this committed 100% to memory, but I believe also the community policing was reduced by $5,000. And so to make up, because we are capped on how much we can spend in public services. So the city council may prefer to allocate the $10,000 to other public service applicants last year who received less than what they applied for, rather than allocating funds to the remaining parks improvements. It doesn't have to be allocated to a public service activity. It can be allocated to any program, and the city staff are not requesting that the funds be allocated to a new program that city council has not approved in the past. The reallocation is to a program that is in the existing budget that can benefit from the additional funds.
Okay. Thank you for explaining that. I guess my concern is if we could keep the funds, the excess funds, possibly in that part of town, because we've kind of committed to like 1.25 million, I think, for park improvements. So just kind of curious, just to regionalize the funds, if there is a way to keep it in a different part of town rather than moving it to do the park improvements.
The city council could, I mean, it has to be used in a CDBG eligible census tract. Mm-hmm. The Carver subdivision is a CDBG eligible census tract, and Firefighters Park is in that census tract. And so because there's no public service in that area that applied for funds that they did not receive, the city council may prefer to allocate the $10,000 to Firefighters Park. If that is not in this year's budget, approved budget, so that is a new program, but it's a very small amount of the budget, so that would be allowed under the CDBG regulations. And then certainly we can work with Kyle and the Southeast Homeowners Association, but just to share $10,000 in a park may not be sufficient funds to add park equipment, because you all know how expensive park equipment is.
Yeah, no, and you're absolutely right, but that would be my preference. I don't know if I have support for it, is to look at Firefighters Park, work with the appropriate people to identify if there is, some projects that haven't been identified with Kyle, perhaps we see what we need to get done. So that's my preference. I would like to possibly see if we could kind of spread the wealth.
Councilwoman Baumann.
Thank you. I guess I have two parts to this then. My first one is, my recollection was that, because I remember the conversation was, are we going to take 15,000 out of ARPA and 10,000 out of CDBG? And I know that was at that time, and we said, no, let's just put it all under ARPA. So I do appreciate this, that's coming forward to look at the reallocation, because I think that that was exactly what the intention was at that time, as I understood it. The second question I actually have now, though, is if, and this is, I guess this is a formal question, if we were going to make some changes to this and not have it go to Norwayne, would we not approve this, or would we make a modification to the motion at this point? How would we handle that? I guess I don't know if that's through the chair, to the clerk, exactly. What would have to happen if we were to say, hey, let's keep it in the geographic area?
Mr. Clerk, if you want to.
Certainly, I'm not as familiar with home funds and CBDG funds as in terms of how they can be reallocated. But for purposes of the meeting, if the city council or a member of it wishes to amend the motion, yes, you can do that. And it's simply that I move to amend the motion to not do this or to instead do that.
So in this case, Councilwoman, we could make an amendment to, if we wanted to say Firefighters Park or Stottlemyre Park, as opposed to Norwayne Parks as is allocated, we could amend the motion.
Can I have that reiterated, what the Norwayne Parks was going to use this money for?
Yes, with the council president at Public Park, which is on Wildwood. There will be a new play structure going on, and then we met and discussed other park improvements, including boulders and trees, as I believe was done at Stottlemyre Park. There are some folks who like to drive across the park to Wildwood from the port in the Norwayne subdivision, so that would reduce that, and also a walking path.
I want to thank everyone for the clarification. You know, on paper, it do look one way, but talking through it and explaining exactly what's actually happened is great. But if we're going to talk about moving these funds somewhere and keeping it in that area, my suggestion or question would be, how come we just move it to the church next door to show the love to the church next door? So just wanted to, because I believe they applied last year as well.
Through the council president, the Samuel B. Ware Community Center is a recipient of CDBG funds. This year's allocation is $18,000, and in fact, they did have to take a $2,000 reduction in their request in order to accommodate the Yosemite Church camp.
Yeah, I just wanted to, make sure.
So we are sharing the love.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Second, Councilwoman McCaskey.
Sorry. Again, going back to the replication and duplication actions. So the majority of our parks in the city, 9 of the 16, are receiving, a variety of makeovers, be it drainage, equipment, foundation materials. And quite a few of those parks are included in what I would call Norwayne parks, right? And anybody on council can remind me if I'm incorrect, I don't believe we made allocations to firefighter.
We did, yeah.
We did?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're getting the new safety mulch and.
The safety mulch.
Playground equipment, I believe.
Okay. So since we have parks and we've used ARPA money for that, could we then utilize these funds in a way to do programming for the residents of Annapolis Park and Carver Sub, if that's what the desire is? And that's what it seems that the commission is asking for, is for those funds to be utilized in that area, right? Really the church, but in that part of our community. So is, again, with the parks already having received ARPA money, I'm a little fearful of that replication act coming, rearing its head and saying, well, you've already given federal funds for all of the parks. And it's $2.5 million that's been invested in the variety of parks over the last 2 fiscal years. So is there something that could satisfy that, that geographical area of the community and, instead of just it being faith-based or going to parks that have already received program dollars?
So through the council president, if we want to use it for public service hours, it would have to go through the annual application process. The city council could also decide to not reallocate the $10,000 at this time, and it could be made part of the funds that are available for the, because we can carry over funds into fiscal year 25-26, and then we would have received the sub-recipient applications through the fiscal year 25-26 planning process, and the council could decide how to allocate those funds in that way. But still, even in 25-26, even though this is the prior year money, you still are capped at the $256,000 that can be spent for public services. So that has to, be kept in mind as well, that we remain capped at that $256,000. And so it's either allocate the funds to a public service that is approved in this year's budget, or allocate the funds to a brick and mortar project, or don't reallocate the funds tonight and make it part of the 25-26 funding amounts. But again, you have the $256,000 cap. Taking your time.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. I think my appetite would be to hold it and roll it over to the reallocation for the next year, since it doesn't seem like we can find a true consensus. Certainly, we're not as talented as you or your commission right now on the fly to do that, but if it gives us an opportunity to fund additional things within the cap next year, I think that would be the appropriate thing to do.
We're going to go Councilman Hart and then comment from the administration. Councilman.
Yeah, well, if the administration has something to say, I was going to take one approach on this. I really think we're gone down the rabbit hole on this, okay? We found out what the confusion was. We're all clear on what the confusion is, and now we're kind of really just deliberating over $10,000. I think we just spent $10,000 in city resources talking about $10,000. So in my opinion, I think I would love to call the question, but I'm not going to, because I would like to hear from the administration. I'll go ahead and end right now and see what the administration has to say.
Deputy Mayor.
Thanks. Just briefly, and there was money already allocated. There is new structures going into Firefighters Park. Likewise, the park that Joanne mentioned has some improvements going in there, but there was not enough money. There's also a problem with cars driving through the park because it's a relatively narrow park going out to Wildwood. So there wasn't money that was allocated previously to do some of the landscape, putting boulders in, planting a few trees to prevent that from being a drive-through anymore. So that's what this reprogramming of funds was going to help finish the improvements to that park. So just to clarify why it was allocated the way it was.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councilman.
Call the question.
Let's call the question. Let's call the question by Councilman Hart, supported by Councilman Hornbuckle. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Any dissent? Any dissent? Question has been called.
Okay. Would you wish to go to a roll call on this, or?
Yes, roll call.
Thank you.
Yep.
Councilwoman Baumann.
I'm clarifying, am I?
New business, item 4.
Okay.
And it's a call the question.
In its entirety.
Am I voting to call the question, or am I voting on?
No, you already did that.
Yep.
So yes.
Councilman Hart.
Yes.
Councilman Hornbuckle.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rakowski.
Yes.
Councilman Wishart.
Yes.
Pro Tem Sampe.
No.
President McDermott.
Yes.
Motion passes. New business. Item 5. Approval of minutes of the regular meeting held January 21, 2025.
So moved.
There's a motion by Councilman Hart, supported by Councilman Wishart. Is there any discussion from the maker? Any discussion from the supporter? Okay, any additional discussion from the council? Okay, Mr. Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilwoman Baumann.
Abstain due to excused absence.
Councilman Hart. Yes. Councilman Hornbuckle. Yes. Councilwoman Rakowski.
Yes.
Councilman Wishart.
Yes.
Pro Tem Sampe.
Yes.
President McDermott.
Yes.
Motion passes. New business, item 6, approval of minutes of the study session held January 21, 2025.
There's a motion by Councilman Hart, supported by Councilman Wishart. Is there any discussion from the maker? Any discussion from the supporter? Okay, any additional discussion from the council? Mr. Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilwoman Baumann.
Abstain due to excused absence.
Councilman Hart.
Yes.
Councilman Hornbuckle. Yes. Councilwoman Rakowski.
Yes.
Councilman Wishart.
Yes.
Pro Tem Sampe.
Yes.
President McDermott.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. All right, we'll now move on to public comment. Everyone wishing to speak before the council shall do so in a civil manner. Speakers shall refrain from abusive or profane remarks, vulgar language, disruptive outbursts, threats, racial slurs, or other conduct that interferes with the orderly conduct of the business meeting. Personal attacks on council members, the administration, city staff, or other speakers or members of the public will not be tolerated. The clock will start upon the first words of the speaker and will not stop while the speaker is recognized from the floor. The speaker can ask questions at this time, and the person questioned may respond during the speaker's allotment of time. However, the clock will not be stopped once it is started. The clock will continue to run until the 3 minutes is up or the person is done speaking. Is there anyone on my left? Yes, Mr. Warren.
Okay, this is in regards to the Citizens CBG Advisory Board. The federal government encourages citizens to sit on that board to make recommendations. All those recommendations that you heard, none of them came from the Citizens Advisory Committee. Most of those votes, the votes that were taking place here tonight is that seems like the city administration has overlooked that federal right. Okay? Various individuals who sit on that commission, come from disabilities, housing, Norway Citizens Council, Southeast Homeowners Association. All those inputs have been disregarded, not put forward. The administration is hijacked and not allowed the citizens to participate in that. Okay, now, there is another thing that I can appeal to, and we know that in this nation today, we have a president who doesn't like grants. Okay? No, I'm not going to appeal to him in regards to that. But the bottom line here is this. I thought council had the ability and the willingness to listen to the citizens, particularly the ones on that commission. So if you're not going to listen to the individuals on the commission, why don't you just disband it? Just disband it. Or any other commission, if you're not going to listen to it, just disband it. Because we're not going to just sit there every meet and just go through the motions and make solid recommendations, because we're the people who live there in the community. We live there in the community, and we know what the problems of the community are. It seems that you want to go along with individuals who don't live there and side with those points of opinion. And that just ain't right. That ain't America. You understand? That ain't America. Something like China or Russia, where citizens seemingly have a voice, but there's no real credence to that particular voice. And I'm glad there was one voice up there that heard it, because that is not the way that it happened in those meetings. That's a one-sided city recommendations and just a total ignore of what the community had recommended. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Is there anyone on my right wishing to speak? Ray.
Listen to Arthur, and I'm on that board too, and we should all, people should be, even people with disabilities or on non-disabilities, sit on that board and, make recommendations. And you should be working with us too, and I agree. So, usually I don't say something like this, but I talk about working together. To me, that's important. We have a president out there, I just heard him say about that, I agree. He wants to take away DEI, Medicaid and different things like that. Now, Ray, he's going to be advocating with other advocates. And we will keep it going. It's important. And also, Melissa, I'm very happy that you're doing this homeless shelter thing. So me being the chair of that board, I'm going to get some information so I can pass it on to the people that I'm working with. So our goal this year is not sitting here at City Hall. So we want to be doing something. So anyway, we do have our first meeting coming up in 2025, and hopefully Jackson from the police department will be there too. So I always enjoy having a police officer there. I think it's important. We get updates and stuff like that, and I give updates, and I think it's really good. And I am so impressed with Merriman Road. Go down that route, that fire department Station 2 is just building up quick, and I really impressed. And also, too, I'm doing a ride along Saturday. I could talk to Daryl, and I want to see what the fire department does. Normally, I go and speak with them, and I'm planning on doing that in the month of March, training the new ones and training about people with disabilities, advocacy, and Disabilities Awareness Month. So I am going to be busy out there for the month of March. So I just wanted to, let's see, anything else I have on here? So I've been so busy. Been appointed to the board now in Lansing for the DD Council, 4 years. And that voice of mine takes it back up there, and that's how we we work with the policies and stuff like that with people with abilities. And, that live in homes and living a life and continue doing what they're doing. So I would say Westland Police Department, keep up the good job that we guys do too, and the fire department. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Is there anyone on my left wishing to speak? Yes, Linda.
Good evening again, guys. I actually just wanted to take time to thank you, part of the city council and other members that were actually at the relay soup and chili. It was a great event. It was really good to see you as the members, but the community come together for such a wonderful event. And I know we publicly put it out on social media, but I wish it would have just gotten a little bit more attention, because I think this could have been a bigger thing. It could have been so much more. But I appreciate everybody that was involved. I had a great time, and hopefully next year we pack the house. Have a good night.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on my right? Anyone else wishing to speak on my left? Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak on public comment? Okay, seeing and hearing none, we will move on to comments from the administration.
Thanks. Just a couple of announcements. February is Black History Month, and we're honored to celebrate with you. This year's theme, African Americans and Labor, which shines a light on the profound impact that Black workers, leaders, and innovators had on shaping our nation's history. The city of Westland is home to several Black-owned businesses, from restaurants, salons, professional services, and retail shops, each one bringing culture, innovation, and opportunity to our community. I would encourage our residents to support these businesses and the hardworking individuals who contribute to our city's success. This February, let us come together to recognize those who continue to lead and break barriers across all industries, from small business owners, educators, healthcare professionals, to those who work in skilled trades. You all help our community grow and thrive. Assessment notices will be mailed out on February 21st. I know that's something everybody just loves to get. Our assessor, Jennifer Stamper, filmed a PSA on understanding your assessment that will air soon on WLND and also be on the YouTube channel. I'd like to remind everyone that the tax payment deadline was extended to February 28th. Saturday was our first test of the new emergency warning system. We did receive some feedback from some residents that we've shared with our emergency management department, and we're looking into those concerns. And then the next stop on the mayor's listening tour is Thursday, February 20th at 5:30 at the Gethsemane Church. Again, that's Thursday, February 20th, 5:30 at Gethsemane Church. And then finally, just like to remind everyone that the Lighthouse Home Mission is accepting donations and seeking volunteers. It's located at Vinoy and Palmer. The overnight warming center and food pantry is a vital resource for those experiencing homelessness. You can find a wish list on Amazon, and the link for that is on our Facebook page. Items can be dropped off at the Lighthouse Home Mission. Here at City Hall, we've got some donation boxes in the lobby, or you can contact Jennifer Grismala at 734-467-5623 to arrange a pickup. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Anything from the City Attorney's Office this evening? Okay, we will start council comments this evening with comments from Councilwoman Baumann.
Thank you. I don't have a lot of comments today, so I'm just going to say, have a good night. See you in 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you, Councilwoman. We will now hear from Councilman Hart.
Thank you, Council President. I do have comments today. So this whole CDBG thing came up, and it just really jogged my memory. So first, I have a question, and I usually don't try to engage like this because it's a little How many people in the audience are part of the CDBG Advisory Board? Just you, Mr. Warren? And Ray? Just a quick yes or no question, no dialogue. Just, did you guys have a follow-up meeting with the administration regarding the CDBG budget? No. Okay, thank you. So I remember this meeting clearly because it was in August, and I remember that the CDBG budget was presented to us, and at the same time that the requests were made for some changes on that CDBG budget, one of those being, of course, Gethsemane Missionary Baptist Church. The answer we were given at that time to the council was that we couldn't change it, we were out of time, and we had to submit it right away, or we risk losing all of our funding. And so it was, I'm not going to say it was intentional, but that was on the agenda at the very last minute, and the council really kind of had a gun to the head moment. We had to go ahead and approve that to get it through, and we were told, we have to go ahead and apply for this. Now, we can always amend it afterwards, but the application had to go in. So I think I see ups and downs from my colleagues. They're all remembering that, okay? And then I sat right here, and I turned to the mayor, and I says, Mayor, it sounds like we need to do some work on this. I'm going to go ahead and support moving this as is, but I'm going to take your commitment that you're going to meet back with the advisory board, and we can make adjustments on that. And I remember I said, do you commit to do that? And I was told yes. So we could just go through the record and we can see the video representation and evidence of that. I'm not trying to slam the mayor, but I am saying that we were promised something, and the council promised to the CDBG advisory board that they're going to take another swing at this. This was just committed. Well, it didn't happen, and now here we are. So I'm a bit disappointed in that, and to hear that that did not happen, because we were committed to this entire council, and that's why the council moved it forward, because our hands were cuffed. We had no recourse to go to make changes at that moment. Let's move it forward, but we have a commitment from the mayor that they're going to sit back down with the advisory board, and they're going to go ahead and make some adjustments. That didn't happen. So that, at that point, is when they could address the $10,000 reallocation or reappropriation. At that point, they could have got input from the CDBG advisory board, instead of here we are sitting in the beginning of April and didn't happen, and now we have to, again, move it so that we can get started on something else. So I guess I'll say CDBG advisory board, for those at home and the representatives here, I guess we'll reach back out to the administration and see what's going on. We're so far down the road now that it seems kind of foolhardy to go ahead and change it now. We're going to have to work on next year, but that commitment was made to the council. I'm really disappointed about that, Council President. I would expect that probably some communication in the future from the administration to you and to the council about what failed, why it failed, and what we're going to do to prevent that, A, from happening, and B, start front-loading the agenda more so the council does have opportunities to go ahead and send things back for review so people can sharpen their pencil. Thank you, that's all.
Sounds good. Okay, we will now hear from Councilman Hornbuckle.
Thank you. Trying to get my notes here together, sorry. I want to highlight Emmanuel Stewart's Champion of Tomorrow. They had a great event over at Jefferson Barnes 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, and I had the pleasure of going, and I was very impressed. We have something like this in our community that brings the kids together. Kids have a safe place to not only learn how to box, but the bigger picture is teaching them how to be mentally strong and physically strong. And I just want to highlight that program is really amazing. It's free to kids 8 to 18. And if you have never seen it, heard of it, I would check it out. Check Jeff's bio. Jeff grew up right here in Norway, and it's giving back to the community. That right there is powerful by itself, showing how Westland is developing great kids to become great mentors in our city. So if you have not checked it out, please check it out. If you have young kids, like I said, it's free from 8 to 18. Great place for kids to learn. And yes, they get to learn to box, but they don't have to box. It's a much bigger picture there. One thing I want to highlight, I have a bunch of amazing women in my life, wife, kids, sister-in-law, sister, mother. But today I want to honor my great-grandma. My great-grandma was someone definitely in my life, all my life, and was my safe space as well. So I want to celebrate her. She just turned 99. That's an amazing achievement, and look forward to her making it 100. So I want to tell my great-grandma happy birthday, and hopefully I'll see her soon. She moved down to Arizona, so my safe spot moved somewhere else. So thank you for the Friendship Center to help me, find new grandmothers. I want to also highlight Sunday, the big game. Come out and cheer on the Eagles with me at Jefferson Barnes at 6 o'clock. I will be there, and I hope to see everyone else there. It's a great place that actually brings the community together to watch something amazing together. So 6 o'clock, Jefferson Barnes is free. I'll be there. It'll be lots of fun. And you can catch me on social media at Councilman Delano Hornbuckle. You can call or text me at 313-415-4096. And I will pull out my bingo card just to hit the DTE, but I'm not going to talk about the DTE spot. I'm going to pass that to my president here and let him go on. But thank you all for coming out. I appreciate everybody here, everyone's input, and everyone that called me over the weekend. I do value your inputs and advice as well. So thank you, and happy February.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Rakowski.
Thank you, Council President. Good evening, everyone. I had the opportunity to attend our Ladles of Hope event. I think it was just fantastic. I can't imagine, it's going to grow, just like Pizza Palooza. So it was a nice time. And, what struck me was that even Congresswoman Tlaib showed up. And I think it's great that she was showing her support for one of her local communities and something that, we're doing to eradicate cancer that so many people suffer from in our country, needlessly, in my opinion. But additionally, Friday, February 7th is Wear Red for Women Day, or Wear Red Day. I encourage you all to wear red and support the women in your lives and their heart health. Cardiovascular disease is the #1 now killer of women, not breast cancer. So we can all do a lot to save those women, save all of the women, and just, encourage one another to have cardiac fitness and early detection even of those ailments. So wear red on Friday, and I just hope both teams have fun and lose.
Councilman Wishart.
Thank you, Council President. I'd like to thank Councilman Hart for jogging all of our memory. I'm also disappointed that we didn't discuss this and get done what was promised. The CDBG funding, we were under the gun. We were told that we had to do it. We need to be able to figure out how to prevent this defect from happening again. I also like to thank the council for supporting consent calendar item C for social work. I think this is something that we all need to expand on. The value's there, it's worth it. I hope next year that we can look into getting more funding for this program itself. And to all the parents out there, dear Jesus, babies use so many diapers. Welcome. Yeah, thank you. That's all I got. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilman. All right, we'll now hear from Pro Tem Sampe.
I had to take a sip, try to get my voice back. Yeah, I'm losing it over here. It's the drainage from the weather change. Well, happy February. Today marks the third day of Black History Month and American Heart Month. I know that my colleague mentioned American Heart Month. My mom had a heart event, so we almost lost her a few years back. So this month is special. So she had a valve replacement that went wrong and was on a ventilator for almost 2 weeks and developed a lot of medical conditions. So I'm just happy to have her survive that. So definitely preventative screenings and make sure that you're following up on your health. I wanted to thank everyone involved in Ladles of Hope event. I know it was a fantastic event, as mentioned. I was able to attend, and I do feel like it will grow. Being the first event, there's a lot of restaurants and people that are involved, and I think after this event and seeing pictures, I'm pretty sure that it will increase from time over time. But definitely, those that attended had a nice time. It was a great time by all. I want to thank the chief because he provided us with a nice fire report. It was provided to City Council, and it highlighted the training hours, incident, emergency medical services, and operations. In 2024, they had 15,907 incidents. So that's an enormous amount of support that is needed by our first responders. They had 12,559 rescue and EMS runs, and on average, 44 incidents a day. So our fire department is just amazing. They had a great event that I was able to attend that highlighted, which, I'm sure that we'll share this information, but it highlighted our Officer of the Year, our Firefighter of the Year, Officer of the Year. It was fantastic. So great job. I know everyone is involved in that, Chief, but it was fantastic. I was really happy that I was able to be there, and I think that it was an opportunity that not only provides recognition, but provides that camaraderie and support, and you see families involved too. So thank you for keeping us in the loop. I know the last meeting we had brought up about some communication incidents and not really getting the communication, but I feel like now we are, so thank you. I appreciate, Chief and Chief Dolly, they've been keeping us up to date. I had voted no on number 4, just because I felt the administration's response of just creating boulders, like that does nothing for me. So, I really felt that we should have kind of taken a step back and listened to the committee and made some decisions from there. That was my reason for no. I just don't feel like, throwing it into Norwayne Parks when we're already updating Norwayne Parks. There's a lot of things right now that we're doing that we could have kind of made the adjustment. So unfortunately, I was outnumbered, but I heard you. I feel like, as brought up, we need to listen to our committees. Our committees provide great support. Our committees come with great ideas. So, from a council perspective, if you're on a committee, if you have concerns, listen to us, because you're on that committee because you were chosen by, in most cases, the administration. So I apologize, but I support you and I heard you, and, unfortunately, I was outnumbered, but I do feel like it could have been redirected differently, which is why I selected no. I think it was mentioned already about Lighthouse Mission. I was over the weekend, I was at Full Gospel Temple dropping off some donations. And I think in a community, when you show up and you don't just say, hey, the city's doing this, you got to be involved. I was there right before the individuals came in at 7 o'clock. They arrive at 7 o'clock and they come in, and that's the overnight, right? And they came in, many of them hungry. They haven't eaten all day. And I was speaking to the volunteers. And again, if you're interested in volunteering, I suggest you go there and do an overnight if you can, because everything has to be monitored. These people help with more than just passing out food. There's a lot of volunteers that are needed in order for this nonprofit to really operate. But anyways, what I was talking about is these individuals, they come here at 7 o'clock, and they didn't even know if they were going to have food donations for these individuals to eat. So not only are they looking for items such as blankets, hand warmers, socks, underwear, those are the things that they're low on right now. But they're also looking for individuals, if you have the means to just drop off a pizza or make some chili. There was a lady from the church, Full Gospel Temple. I'm looking at you because I know you like cooking. And she said, I've been meaning to drop this off, and she dropped off these big buckets of chili, and that was their food for the evening. But otherwise, they didn't have anything to feed these individuals. So I just encourage you, if you are interested, you can even go through your closet and see if you have a coat that doesn't fit, gently used, just wash it. Gloves, underwear, socks, maybe some socks that you had from Christmas, right? And you're not going to use. But they're in serious need. And the individuals that came broke my heart. An individual came with a child. They were waiting outside. So I just really encourage you. Jennifer Guzmana is amazing. Her and I have been talking back and forth. It wasn't mentioned by administration, but didn't think it would be. But I'm helping out Jennifer with the wish list, and I'm trying to help them as much as possible. And Jennifer's really actively putting this together, but I'm supporting her as much as possible for these donations. So I'd be happy to pick them up too, but they're in serious need. The funding is all volunteer, so they don't really get much funding. So I really, really, really appreciate everyone that's reached out to me. And if you're interested in volunteering, I could give you more information too. Wanted to plug the family prom night, Jefferson Barnes Community Vitality Center, February 14th. So I did that last time, but it's coming up soon. It's from 6 to 7:30. They have a DJ, dancing, arts and crafts, family photos, snacks, and drinks. Another very, very, very worthy nonprofit, Norway Community Citizens Council. So it's going to be a great event. And if anyone has any other questions or issues, you can always find me on my personal council page, Councilwoman Melissa Sampe. Till then, stay safe and kind with each other, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you, Pro Tem.
Thank you.
All right, before I get started with the pleasantries, I have a few things here that do need to be addressed. This is now the third time that the Citizens Advisory Council has been brought up with regards to requesting a meeting with the administration and not getting it. I know it was brought up when we had the initial meeting to discuss the CDBG Home Fund last year. Then it was brought up at a subsequent meeting as a follow-up, I think 2 months later, by myself and a couple of others on this council to say, hey, where's the status of the meeting? And now we're bringing it up again. So I will definitely work with the councilman. Thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate that. But it seems like we're going back to the well now for the third or fourth time, where the board of the Citizens Advisory Council wants to have not individual meetings with the administration, but wants to have a collective meeting as a body together with the administration to discuss their priorities. Not this person comes in on Monday, this person comes in on Tuesday, this person comes in on Wednesday. So I will follow up with the administration to see if we can get a full-on meeting between the board itself together as one unit with the administration, and maybe, even council leadership being a part of that, because we've brought this up on at least 3 different occasions now, which is including tonight. So I would appreciate that and look forward to working with the administration, members of the advisory council on that. Item number 2, yes, as my colleague alluded to, those of you that live in the Avondale and Wildwood, Cherry Hill and Wayne area know that in a matter of 2 days, we lost power 2 consecutive times. We lost power on, I think it was Sunday morning that it went out initially, and we were out for most of the morning and into the afternoon. And then again, the next day, went out again, after they fixed the transformer box that blew at the corner of Hively and Forest. So, you know, I know that DTE's been in the community. They had the town hall in the forum where they were talking about the infrastructure improvements and the investments that they've made in Westland. And to be fair to DTE, you know, fair where it's due, they have made a lot of investments here in the community. But clearly, there is more that needs to be done, and it's quite frustrating for people in the dead of winter to lose power on back-to-back days for, you know, multiple hours at a time, on some of the coldest days of the year, for one, and, you know, for two, we know that we're not going to be recompensated for DTE with a adequate bill credit, because we don't, here in the state of Michigan, require our utility to give a bill credit for every hour you're out of power. You have to be out for 90 hours or more to qualify for their $35 bill credit. So, you know, while I appreciate the investments at DTE and the upgrades that they have been making, there's still obviously a lot more, you know, work to do, especially with regards to the type of equipment that they're using. Because I can tell you, I've lived on my street now going on 10 years, and that is at least probably, and I'm sure Councilman Hornbuckle can back this up, the 6th or 7th time that specific transformer box has popped and gone out at the corner of Hively and Forest. And it makes you wonder if we're getting refurbished equipment put back in our neighborhoods, or used equipment. So it really makes one wonder about that, unless the lifespan on a transformer box is really only, you know, a year or 6 months, which I don't think it is. So a call to action on DTE with regards to that. I want to thank my colleague, Pro Tem Sampe, for doing the lighthouse missions. Homelessness is something that I've, you know, pushed. I've done the sleep outs in behalf of Covenant House here in the Metro Detroit area, and they really spotlight youth homelessness in particular. But to know that we have places like Samaritas Family Services and the Lighthouse Ministry doing a lot of great work right here in Westland. Support your local organizations that are doing a tremendous amount of work here in Westland. So I want to thank Pro Tem Sampe for, you know, bringing that to the spotlight. I know Mayor Coleman was out there as well highlighting that. So thank you for doing the PSA, and thank you for, you know, coordinating with our social worker, Jennifer Grismala, to get funding and resources there. And I do plan on whatever they want. If it's more convenient to bring food directly to them or money so they can buy food, I'm happy to do both. Yes, I do like to cook, so a pot of chili, pot of spaghetti, something that can feed a lot of people, I think will be great.
They have an average of 25 a night. I didn't mention that.
Oh, an average of 25 people a night they're feeding. So, okay, as my colleague just mentioned to me, if you do want to bring food, they're feeding around 25 people a night, so families, individuals who are over there, so bring enough for a decent amount of people if you do plan on bringing some food over there. And then obviously if you're bringing hats, gloves, blankets, things like that, if they're feeding 25 people a night, I'm going to guess, you know, enough to accommodate 20, 25 people or so with the clothing, the blankets as well. Couple of other things. I too had the chance to attend with many of my colleagues the Fire Department Award Ceremony. I want to congratulate our Firefighter of the Year, Rich Gigi, on his award for being our Westland Firefighter of the Year. Rich has been with the department for many years and does, you know, a lot of work that you obviously see when you're out on a run doing that, but there's a whole lot of stuff behind the scenes that Firefighter DG does as well. And so I want to thank Rich for all the tireless work and his being awarded Firefighter of the Year. He is an outstanding firefighter and paramedic who goes above and beyond. And congratulations to all the awardees for all their service going above and beyond here in the city of Westland. And as my colleague also mentioned, the chief did share with us the, you know, run volume. We get kind of a monthly overview and then the year-over-year overview. And one thing you notice about this department, same thing can be said for our Westland Police Department, is year over year they are busier than ever. If you look at a graph and you go back 10, 15, 20 years, what they were doing back in 2000 or 2005 or 2010 and the work they're doing today, that line on the graph just goes up like this. So they're busier than ever, which means we as a council, the administration, and as a community need to support them in more ways than ever because they are doing more work than ever before, and we are running them ragged. So I want to thank them and the fire department and our Westland Police Department as well for continuing to do more work than ever before. It was mentioned already by several of my colleagues, by Deputy Mayor Godbout, with regards to, Black History Month. And here in the city of Westland, we are celebrating labor and African-American and Black contributions to labor and the labor movement. And I think while there are many people in the labor movement, past and present, who are Black, brown, and African-American who are worth spotlighting, there are two people who really helped to kickstart and revolutionize the labor movement in this country. And the first person I wanted to mention was Mary McLeod Bethune. And you may remember Ms. Bethune's name from Bethune-Cookman University, which is a HBCU, historically Black college. And she was one of the very first people to start a teachers association, a teachers union in this country, which was the National Association of Teachers in Colored Schools, which was later renamed the American Teachers Association. So we think about the labor movement, we think about teachers unions as a part of that labor movement, and without the work of Mary McLeod Bethune, the modern teachers unions we have, the American Federation of Teachers, the NEA with the National Education Association, or here locally with the Michigan AFT and with the MEA, with the Michigan Education Association, their work that they have done advocating for teachers, educators, and staff would not be possible without the work that preceded it from Mary McLeod Bethune. The other person that I really wanted to spotlight here was the late, great A. Philip Randolph. You may have heard of that name, a more contemporary name in the labor movement. A. Philip Randolph was one of two to be the very first vice presidents of the AFL-CIO, the very one of two first persons of color, African Americans, who were vice presidents at the AFL-CIO. The labor movement through the UAW and the AFL-CIO with Walter Reuther and folks like A. Philip Randolph were not only instrumental in the labor movement, they were instrumental in advancing the cause of civil rights and voting rights. And they worked hand in hand with folks like Dr. King, Medgar Evers, John Lewis, and others in the civil rights movement in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. And without the work of the labor movement backing up and standing in solidarity with the Civil Rights and Voting Rights Act, who knows if those movements would have been as strong and able to advocate and advance the cause of voting rights and civil rights, and ultimately the adoptions of two key acts in the 1960s without the support of labor and without the work of people like A. Philip Randolph advocating within the labor movement to make sure that civil rights, labor rights, voting rights, and labor rights went hand in hand. And then with that's all I've got. As always, if anybody needs anything from me, you can find me on council at Councilman, or find me on Facebook, at Councilman Mike McDermott, and you can call or text me at 734-890-2146. And with that, is there a motion to adjourn? And our next meeting is going to be on a Tuesday. And thank you to Councilman Rakowski for doing the pledge.